Big Champions League tie, RB Leipzig taking on Man City in Leipzig. Marco Rosa's done brilliantly since he's taken over at Leipzig, and in the last 11 games they've scored a total of 26 goals against, of course, the Premier League's top scorers in Manchester City. So this game should have some goals in it, and it's one where I think on the face of it you would think that this will be an easy one for Man City. They normally navigate their way to the semi-finals, but it's not going to be that easy, is it?
No, they're never easy, them games. I think all Champions Leagues are not either. They're all difficult, and especially Leipzig. I don't think they're a team to sit back either. They'll have a go, and no matter who it is, I think they're quite a positive sort of team. I do expect City over two legs, especially that second leg at City to go through, but City, they just get in the late stages, don't they? It just sort of doesn't happen for them. They don't get that luck, so you never know. I think that's a tricky time. I don't think it's a conclusion that Man City will automatically go through because the second leg's at home. I think it'll be a difficult game.
Generally, with these ones, you want the second leg at home, don't you? So to get yourselves kind of over the line. Do you think this is maybe slightly different in the fact that Leipzig ultimately probably want to give themselves a chance in the second leg? So to be playing at home is the right move for them? Or?
I think when you're a team, a smaller side, and you're going up against like Premier League giants, you probably want the first leg to sort of like set your foot in the tie. And if you win that game, then the second leg, you're going to play as an underdog in the second leg anyway. Yeah. So I think they probably are going to enjoy the fact that they're at home. My only thing with this fixture is Leipzig play such high-octane football, high-line. City are just going to go bang, bang, bang. Leipzig are quality, though, and they've got this ability where they can rush the opposition, but they're playing against the most relaxed team going in Man City. That left side, I'm sure we'll talk about it, I think will be massive because you've got Szoboszlai down that side who's in great form this season, 12 goal involvements in the league. Then you've got Bernardo Silva, who's, according to Pep, not a left back, but Stewart is a left back, isn't he?
I get the impression you're not feeling.
That's like
Bernardo
saying I was a left back.
You're not feeling him there.
I think
not in big games. I think.
Yeah, there's certain managers can do things, and people go, and Ten Hag's approaching that now, where people go, great choice. But Pep at half time, after the game against Arsenal, he said at half time, I got the first half completely wrong. And then Bernardo wasn't playing at left back anymore in the second half. Then he goes back to it against Forest again. And I think he's trying to find a way to play with a left back because the back three doesn't suit City. And I just think when they've played Ake out there, their ball progression is really poor. They can't play out the left side. And I don't think he likes Laporte out there.
I slightly disagree, just from the point of view that I think Bernardo Silva is a bit of an anomaly. I also think that if you think of, I think we as football fans sometimes struggle with it being that way round. With Bernardo Silva, I get what you mean. I think in the first half, and I think there's moments and there's games where you've got to be really, really careful with it. And an example of that is probably that Arsenal game, because when you've got Saka on that right-hand side, and it's not... I mean, you could say the same about Brendan Johnson being the key player for Nottingham Forest at the weekend as well. And look, every team's going to have a player who plays out wide. But overall, in terms of control, Man City should have won that game 5-1 against Nottingham Forest. Like the amount of chances that they had, the game should have been completely finished. And that idea of a left back sort of coming into midfield, I think we're all a bit more okay with that or used to that than the opposite of someone who's actually played right. He's played right wing, he's played left wing, he's played absolutely everywhere. But I think he is so intelligent. And the main thing I think here is that Man City and Pep Guardiola, they're about control, they're about possession, and they're about creating those kind of overloads. And I think he's understood now that he's lacking that little bit of pace. He's got that out and out striker in Haaland who will get you the goals. But he hasn't got that Sterling or that Gabriel Jesus, which is the critique that we all kind of put at them. So the way I feel like he's getting around that a little bit is by having that extra guy further forward. And there's no one who's more of a Swiss Army knife than Bernardo Silva. Because he's playing left back, or Portuguese army knife. He's like, he can play left back, he'll come into centre midfield, play as a deep line playmaker, then all of a sudden he's playing as a 10, then he's going to go over to right wing because Mahrez is knackered, then he's going to go and help out Grealish on the left hand side. So, although of course always in transition, and I think that's how Leipzig get goals in this game, they're going to get a chance. You're going to get more chances down the other end.
The problem for me is though, the Arsenal game, he could have had 4 yellows. 4 terrible tackles.
He got twisted up, didn't he?
Yeah, very cynical fouls against Forest. That doesn't happen if you have a regular left back there. Morgan Gibbs-White and Brendan Johnson had a bit of an overload because Bernardo had pressed too high. So I think in the I get it. I think in terms of control, definitely.
Yeah.
And also, I know it sounds ridiculous when it comes to Man City, but in terms of the options that he's got, like that, the squad is bizarrely light. Especially now, Cancelo has been sort of sent off for whatever reasons they are. Like he doesn't have your normal left back really there, does he?
I think he sees the game different to us, don't it? We always think of sort of the negative, like, oh, they could get down our side. Pep's thinking is, we'll be in control for 80% of this game. He has that sort of arrogance, doesn't he? Like, I don't need to worry about him defending because he'll have the ball 80% of the time. I get what he's thinking, but like you said, that other percentage of when they're targeting there, that could cost you a game, especially a big game against big players.
I feel it works if, as a team defensively throughout the season, you're not getting done in transition. I think this season they are more susceptible generally, and they've lost Walker's athleticism. Maybe he's lost a yard of pace. Ruben Diaz hasn't been fit. He's been chopping and changing centre-backs. Then you're changing your left-back, who's not a left-back. I think in this case, you go, okay, just do a job for me for another 3 or 4 games whilst I get Diaz fit, whilst I decide where the rest of my defence is. And then you go, Bernardo, you can slot in. I think in this game, they might be all right. I think, although I think Nkunku does like to drift to the right-hand side and he should be fit, did feature on the weekend. They might get overloads in that area, and Leipzig and Marco Rose are very clever. They will probably try and function in that sort of area. The problem is, City have Haaland on the other end. They'll create lots of chances. They'll create lots of goals. And I don't know if you can stop that.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I also think that the thing I'm struggling with Leipzig is, although, yes, they play very vertically, and you have got someone like Timo Werner who has been good for Leipzig, and they kind of just let him do his thing, and you know what you're going to get in terms of his ability to sort of to make those runs. But I actually think from the defensive point of view of Man City, those players kind of running from in to out suits them actually weirdly a little bit better than if they're already like Martinelli and Saka staying out wide. I think that would pull at them that little bit more. I think it's going to be really congested in the middle of the field. I think that kind of suits Man City. But Nkunku could be a key player here because he's got that. He's got that ability, that pace to be the difference. Has scored goals, but for him to sort of race back could be a difficult one for them. I think the central area is going to be crucial, but I think it'll be tighter than people think. And you're right, in transition, that's where they could get themselves hurt. And the double pivot, Lehmer and Schlager for Leipzig are going to be really important in terms of stopping Man City. But the difference could be Haaland at the end of it all. It normally is, right?
Yeah, I always think when you see the middle of the park, I always look at the middle of the park and big games straight away. I look at who's playing, what the systems are, because generally the games are won and lost in that bit, aren't they? Who's going to get control of it? Who's going to play them passes? And and like I say, I'm glad you mentioned Haaland because I was thinking of him he was thinking goals. Like I say, if you're getting De Bruyne and them type of play on the ball, they haven't sort of been playing to his strengths of late, have they? It's all a bit passy. I think they have to use his strengths, like you're on about Leipzig with ins and the outs and the runners. Man City have to use his strengths as well and his pacing behind because he's as quick, as powerful as anyone, and I just think if they get back to that what they were early in the season and using his strengths, they'll be a bigger threat than they are.
Yeah, I think the ebb and flow of the game is going to be really interesting as well, which is something I think Man City have kind of twigged now, where they've gone, we've got Haaland here, yes, he can start this way, but when he spins, he's like a train, so they need to play the ball into him, and that could be where he could get some goals, and he does well in the Champions League generally, doesn't he?
Also, he does well against Bundesliga teams, so and he does really well against high lines, which is where I think he's suffered in the Prem, because there isn't as many high lines. And City, they were much more direct against Arsenal, to be fair. They were getting the ball into wide areas and just hitting diags over to him. I don't quite think that suits him. I don't think it's the idea of just get it to him as fast as possible. I think they're trying to tweak that and figure it out. But he's up against Josko Gvardiol, which will be a great battle because he's a big man in himself and he's quick himself and he's good in possession. I think it'll be a fascinating game. There'll be a lot of matchups which will be very interesting. Honestly, I'm looking at Leipzig and saying those wide areas, Timo's been doing really well from those diags from Konrad Laimer. Also, Konrad Laimer is a busybody. And I think City tend to control games with Rodri. The ball goes into him. He keeps ticking. Laimer's the man to press Rodri. They've got a chance in this fixture. I don't think it's completely a foregone conclusion.
Chelsea could get Werner back, couldn't they?
Yeah. I mean, there's a few players out
off the left.
There's a few players
I just threw something right in the hat there. I just, whoa. Sorry.
So, okay, prediction time. I wouldn't be surprised if this one's a draw, this first one, and then Man City just have their way with them in the second one. And I keep thinking of one player that we haven't spoken about. De Bruyne just steps up in a moment and provides that cross to the back post. Haaland scores his goal and they're away. That's how I see it. But I do think this is a real tactical battle, this first one. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was a draw. So draw first leg, second leg, Man City progress. What do you think, Stuart?
No, that's what I'm thinking. I think Pep probably won't be too disappointed if they do get a draw, a decent result, because you think getting back into City, the atmosphere, the bigger pitch, they're home, they're quite strong, and I just think, if they're getting back second leg there with a decent result, they'll get over the line.
Nubaid?
I think Leipzig win the first leg. I think they'll win it 2-1, and then I think City will beat them at home like 4-1.
Poke the beast.
Yeah. Don't want to do that.
Okay, guys, let us know when it comes to Leipzig against Man City. What will be the score? Get your predictions down below.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.